Close your eyes and think of the word Persia. What do you see? You probably see gold-leafed palaces, Prince of Persia-style silhouettes, exotic carpets, and maybe a 300-style army of immortals marching across a desert. It sounds ancient. It sounds romantic. It sounds like a world that doesn't exist anymore. Now, think of the word Iran. The vibe shifts instantly, doesn't it? You're thinking of geopolitical headlines, nuclear deals, and the complex and often tense relationship between a modern nation and the West. But here's the thing, they are the exact same place. This is not just the story of a country. It is the story of how power, religion, and public image can alter the destiny of an entire civilization. So, sit back, because what you are about to discover goes far beyond a simple name change. But before we begin, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next video. In 1935, the world woke up to a formal memo from a defiant king. He told the international community that Persia was dead. From that moment on, every diplomat, mapmaker, and school teacher had to use a new name, Iran. Most history books will tell you this was just a simple branding exercise, a modernization project. But that is a lie, or at least it's a very sanitized version of the truth. The real story involves a self-made soldier king, a desperate obsession with appearing civilized to Europe, and a controversial connection to the darkest ideologies of the 1930s. Why did a nation with 2,500 years of brand equity suddenly throw it all away? And why does this one name change still explain why the West fundamentally misunderstands the Middle East today? To understand the 1935 name change, we first have to talk about a mistake that lasted for 2 millennia. If you had walked into a marketplace in Tehran in the year 1700 and asked a local merchant if he lived in Persia, he might have looked at you like you had 2 heads. To the people living there, the land had been called Iran, or Aran Shar, since the time of the Sassanid Empire, and even earlier. So, where did Persia come from? You can blame the Greeks. When the ancient Greeks encountered the massive empire to their east, they met the leaders from a specific region in the south called Parsa. The Greeks took that regional name and applied it to the whole empire. To them, it was Persis. Eventually, the Romans turned that into Persia. For 2,000 years, the West looked at this massive, diverse civilization and gave it a nickname based on one single province. It would be like if the rest of the world decided to call the entire United States Texas. The locals didn't really mind, mostly because for a long time, they weren't the ones writing the international maps. But as we move into the 20th century, the nickname became a problem. By the early 1900s, Persia didn't sound powerful. It sounded weak. It sounded like a place where European powers, specifically Britain and Russia, could play their great game of colonialism. To the world, Persia was a crumbling relic of the past, famous for cats and rugs, not for power or industry. Enter Reza Shah Pahlavi. He wasn't born a king, he was a soldier. He was a man who rose through the ranks of the Persian Cossack Brigade, eventually pulling off a coup in 1921. He looked at his country and saw a nation stuck in the Middle Ages while the rest of the world was building fighter jets and factories. Reza Shah had a massive chip on his shoulder. He wanted to drag his country into the future, whether it wanted to go or not. He banned traditional veils, forced men to wear Western hats, and built a massive trans-Iranian railway. But he realized he had a branding problem. He didn't want to be the king of a romantic, dusty Persia that lived in the imagination of British aristocrats. He wanted to be the leader of a modern, unified, and fierce state. But here is where the story takes a turn that most people are uncomfortable talking about. In the 1930s, Reza Shah was looking for allies to help him balance the overbearing influence of the British. He turned his eyes toward Germany. At the time, Germany was the rising industrial powerhouse of Europe. But they weren't just trading partners. There was a shared intellectual movement happening between Berlin and Tehran. See, the word Iran is linguistically cognate with the word Aryan. In the 1930s, the Nazi Party was obsessively pushing the narrative of Aryan superiority. They wanted to prove that the great civilizations of the past were built by a specific master race. And when Iranian diplomats in Berlin saw how much the Germans obsessed over the word Aryan, they saw an opportunity. They sent word back to the Shah. The Europeans respect us more when we emphasize our Aryan roots. If we change the name of the country to Iran, we reclaim our status as the original Aryans and distinguish ourselves from our neighbors. This wasn't about being pro-Nazi in the sense we think of it today. It was about status. Means the Shah wanted to tell the West, we aren't just another Oriental colony. We are your ancestors. We are the noble ones. So, on the Persian New Year in 1935, the decree went out. Persia was gone. Iran was in. But here's where it gets weird. The change didn't go as smoothly as the Shah hoped. In fact, it caused a massive identity crisis that nearly broke the country's relationship with the West. Imagine you're a British oil executive in 1935. You've spent decades building the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. Suddenly your letterhead is wrong, your maps are wrong, and the people you're dealing with are no longer the compliant Persians you thought you knew. They are Iranians who are demanding a seat at the table. The West hated the change. They felt like the Shah was trying to trick them into giving Iran more respect than they felt it deserved. Winston Churchill, famously, refused to use the name Iran for years because he thought it was confusing. He worried people would mix it up with Iraq. But there was a deeper, more psychological twist to this name change that the Shah didn't anticipate. By killing the name Persia, he accidentally killed the West's emotional connection to his country's history. When you say Persian, people think of Cyrus the Great, Rumi's poetry, and the invention of algebra. When you say Iranian, the Western mind, fairly or not, associates it with the 1979 revolution, the hostage crisis, and modern conflict. By forcing the world to use Iran, the Shah unintentionally wiped away the prestige of the Persian brand in the eyes of the public. He wanted to look modern, but in doing so, he made the country's 2,500-year history feel like it belonged to a different nation entirely. In fact, by the 1950s, the confusion was so bad that the Iranian government actually had to issue a second decree saying it was okay to use Persia in cultural contexts. They realized they had accidentally deleted their own legacy. But the name Iran stuck. And it stuck for a reason that goes beyond the Shah's ego or 1930s racial theories. The name Iran is a statement of sovereignty. It is an endonym, the name old people call themselves. Persia was a name given to them by outsiders. And when the 1979 revolution happened and the monarchy was toppled, the new government didn't change the name back. They kept Iran. Why? Because Iran represents the land, the people, and the struggle for independence from Western nicknames. Today, the debate still lingers. If you meet someone from the diaspora in Los Angeles or London, they might introduce themselves as Persian. Usually, that's a way of signaling a connection to the culture, the art, and the history, or perhaps a way to distance themselves from the current political regime. But if you ask someone in the streets of Tehran, they are Iranian, period. So why does this matter to you, watching this right now? Because it reminds us that names aren't just labels. They are weapons. They are tools of diplomacy. They are ways for a nation to say to the world, you don't get to decide who I am anymore. The shift from Persia to Iran wasn't just a change on a map. It was the first shot fired in a century-long struggle for identity that is still playing out in your newsfeed every single day. We often think history is made of wars and treaties, but sometimes history is made by a single memo, sent by a king who was tired of being called by a name that wasn't his. The next time you hear someone use those two names interchangeably, remember, you're not just hearing a synonym. You're hearing the echoes of a 2,000-year-old misunderstanding and one man's desperate, controversial attempt to fix it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to support this work by liking the video, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell.